Hi everyone, my name is Katie. Today I'll be reviewing two books by the author Jemisin. I already did a book by her recently. Those are great. But these is The Killing Moon and The Shadowed Sun. Now, I read this like 2 weeks after I finished the Inheritance trilogy, so I was kind of like still suffering from the feels of the last book. And so reading this actually wasn't a good idea because, I don't know, I feel like she was having a bit of writer's block with this book, and so it kind of felt slower to me, and I wasn't as engaged by the main characters. The main characters are Jiri, Ehuru, and Sanandi, and they're gatherers, which they like take dreams from people. Well, not really take dreams from people, but take. Ooh, it's complicated. She's based it off of like the four humors and like lots of different mythologies. This is fantasy set in Africa, so it has different like lore about that and stuff like that. I wasn't really feeling this book. This was more like a straight adventure than the more intrigue and double crossings and, you know, all the twist-turny stuff that was in the Inheritance trilogy. So I was kind of bored reading it, and it took me longer than usual. It took me about a week to read this, and the other books I read those like, I don't know, 2 days. So I would give this a 3 out of 5 just because it's by NK, and the fact that it took it 2 weeks after I read the first book. I think I should have took 2 months because I was suffering the feels really bad. But luckily, things picked up. In this book, it had more of the intrigue, the characters, and stuff like that. This one is set 10 years after the first one. The kingdom gets overrun by outsiders. Well, not really overrun, but gets taken over by outsiders. They're about peace and, you know, and all that. And so, but they have riches and they trade with people and stuff like that. And so a lot of countries want to take their stuff, but they're not really taken over by people who want to take the stuff, even though they do want to take the stuff. The king, he went all psycho. Well, he's not a king, he's a prince. He went all psycho, and he was making this big war, and they managed to stop him, but in the process, another country took him over. So it's kind of like, yeah, and so it's taking 10 years since they're so used to peace, they're not really used to making a rebellion or anything like that, so it kind of like 10 years for that to ferment. And so this book, which is 10 years later, the son of the crazy prince, he's growing up and he's plotting to take back his country. So this one's more plot-like. It reminded me more of like a mix between the first and the second book of the Inheritance trilogy, even though it's nothing like it at all. She also, NK also kind of reminds me of Brandon Sanderson. I like the way they both build worlds and how the plot of their stories isn't just about taking the kingdom back from a corrupt ruler, or like that's like in a lot of fantasies. It's not a bad thing, but sometimes you're like, okay, the arc is getting back to the country for honor, for glory, Sparta, or whatever. And so this one kind of shows what happens after the country gets taken back, or a big thing happens that changes everything, how everything used to be going. And so it's kind of like the consequence of that, and I like how they set it up. So I like this one better. It's a duology. There's no 3 books. I can't stand duologies. But anyways, there's only 2 books, and it picks up much better. That will get a 4.5 instead of a 3. That's poor this one is. Also, the covers aren't by Cliff Nielsen. But anyway, I would recommend both of them, even though I didn't really like the first book. But I would suggest, if you already read the Inheritance trilogy, wait at least 2 months before you read these. And don't expect the Inheritance trilogy, even though I do not expect the Inheritance trilogy. I wouldn't be happy if she just rehashed it all over again. But the inherent trilogy like really takes over your mind and you really keep thinking about it and thinking about it. This one, I kept thinking about the end and about that she doesn't tell about what happened to all the characters, and there's actually one character that I really want to know what happened about. Like, her name is Tia Annette, and I'm like, what happened to her at the end of the story? Because she just kind of like walks off and then poof, that's it. I'm like, I want to know more! So, I would suggest these two. Actually, I would suggest any book by Kayti Jemisin. She has a special place in my heart. She's up there with, like, Paris Brennan and also awesome authors. Alrighty then. You can find me on Tumblr under KNRWrites. You can also find me on Facebook, Kayti Nika Raet, K-A-Y-T-I, space, N-K-A-R-A-E-T. And I'm also on Smashwords, where you can find my books, short stories, all that good stuff. So, bye.